She thought she was rescuing a dying wolf from the freezing river, but that wolf was the cursed Alpha King, hunted, broken, and betrayed. Saving him would ignite a bond that could destroy her world, or make her its queen. This is the story of love, power, and destiny's cruel twist. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's video, please do subscribe to the channel. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your country or city in the comments below. It truly amazes me how far our community reaches around the world. All right, now let's begin. Rain poured like shards of glass from a black sky. The river roared, swollen from the storm, dragging broken branches and secrets down its cold throat. Elara stumbled through the mud, clutching her lantern. The faint howl had brought her here. Weak, desperate, fading. Then she saw it. A massive wolf half submerged in the rushing water, its silver fur streaked with crimson. For a heartbeat, fear froze her. Wolves didn't come this close to the village. Not alive, anyway. Yet something in its eyes, pain, yes, but also a strange familiarity tore through her fear. Without thinking, she dropped to her knees and reached for him. "Hold on," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't you dare die on me." The current tugged hard as she waded in, water biting through her skirt and skin. The wolf's body was heavy, far too heavy for her slender frame. But Elara had always been stubborn. She hooked her arms beneath its shoulders, gasping as her feet slipped on the slick stones. With a cry of effort, she dragged it to the shore, collapsing beside it in the mud. The wolf's breathing rattled, shallow, uneven. A deep gash split across its side, blood dark against its silver fur. She tore the hem of her dress and pressed it to the wound, praying to the moon above. "You're not dying," she said fiercely. "Not while I'm here." Lightning flashed, and for a moment she swore she saw the wolf's eyes glow gold, like molten sunlight in a dying storm. She built a fire under the old pine by her cabin, wrapping the creature in a blanket. Every time she touched its fur, a strange warmth tingled up her arm, like static but alive. The scent of pine smoke and wet earth filled the air as she cleaned the wound with trembling hands. "What happened to you?" she murmured, brushing mud from his muzzle. His paw twitched. The wolf opened his eyes again, golden and unblinking, staring right into her soul. Something ancient pulsed between them, an unspoken pull that made her heart race. She didn't understand it, but she couldn't look away. It was as if the night itself was holding its breath. By dawn, the storm had passed. Mist hung over the forest, soft and silver. The wolf still hadn't moved, but his breathing had steadied. Exhausted, Elara leaned back against the pine, watching him. She thought about the stories her grandmother used to tell, the ones about the moonbound, wolves who could wear human skin. She had laughed at them as a child, but now, looking at this creature, at the faint scar near his eye, something felt too deliberate, too human. "You're not just the wolf, are you?" The wolf's ear twitched. Then, barely audible, he growled a single broken word that froze her blood. "Run." Elara's breath caught. Did she imagine it? Wolves couldn't speak. But before she could think, the forest exploded with sound. Branches snapping, men shouting, torches flickered in the mist. Voices, rough, angry, cut through the trees. "Find him! The alpha must be dead or we'll all pay!" Elara's heart pounded. She turned to the wolf. His golden eyes met hers, fierce now, pleading. "Please," he rasped again, clearer this time. "Hide me." The world seemed to tilt. She didn't know who he was or why they were hunting him, But as the boots thundered closer, Elara made a choice that would change her life forever. She dragged the wounded wolf inside her cabin and bolted the door. Outside, men's voices clashed with the crackle of torches. The wolf lay limp on her floorboards, his silver fur streaked with dirt and blood, his golden eyes barely open. "Search everywhere!" a man barked from the darkness. "The alpha was wounded. He couldn't have gone far." Elara's pulse thundered. Alpha? The word hit her like a stone. Was that what he was? The leader of their kind? Her trembling hand gripped the knife she used for chopping roots, though she knew it would do little against whoever, or whatever, was out there. She crouched beside the wolf, whispering, "Don't make a sound, please." His chest rose and fell, slow but steady, as the pounding boots drew closer. The latch rattled. She froze. Shadows flickered through the gaps in the cabin walls. Then, just as sudden, a new voice spoke. Lower, colder. "He's not here," it said. "His scent ends at the river. Move." The torches began to fade, swallowed by fog and distance. Only then did Elara breathe again. Her whole body shook. She turned to the wolf, anger and confusion swirling inside her. "Who are they?" she whispered. "Why are they hunting you?" The wolf's eyelids fluttered. For a moment she thought he was gone, but then his form began to shift. The sound was wrong. Bones cracking, tendons stretching, fur sinking into skin. Elara gasped, stumbling back as the creature before her transformed into a man. He lay naked on her cabin floor, drenched in blood and moonlight. His hair was dark as ink, his chest broad, marked with scars that told stories of old wars. But it was his eyes, those same molten gold eyes that rooted her in place. "You," she stammered, words trembling. "You're—" "Don't scream," he rasped, his voice gravelly, weak. "I won't hurt you." Every instinct screamed at her to run, but something deeper, a pull she couldn't name, kept her frozen. She grabbed a blanket from the bed, draping it over him. "You should be dead," she whispered. His lips curved faintly. "I was close. Until you." He coughed, blood spotting his chin. "They'll kill you if they find out you helped me." Elara's heart pounded as she knelt beside him. "Why? Who are you?" she demanded, voice barely above the crackling fire. He hesitated, pain flashing across his eyes. "I'm Kale, Alpha King of the Shadow Moon Pack." The words hung heavy in the air, impossible, yet undeniable. Elara shook her head. "That's just a story. Wolves that turn into men? That's not a story." He cut in, his voice firm despite his weakness. "And if you value your life, you'll forget my name." But she couldn't. Not after what she'd seen. Not after the way he'd said it, with power buried beneath exhaustion. "You saved me," he added quietly, his gaze softening. "That makes you part of this now, whether you want to or not." Outside, the forest had gone eerily still. Only the wind whispered through the pines. Elara stared at the man, this wounded king, and felt the world tilt under her feet. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt something strange blooming inside her chest, a sense of purpose she hadn't known she was missing. Then, just as she turned to close the window shutters, she saw it. Two glowing red eyes watching from the tree line. Her breath hitched. The figure in the shadows smiled, a cruel, knowing smile, and then vanished into the fog. Elara backed away, heart hammering. She didn't know it yet, but saving the Alpha King had already made her a target. And out there, someone had just marked her for death. Morning sunlight cut through the cabin window, catching on the dust motes that drifted like tiny ghosts. Kale lay still on the bed, his breathing shallow but even. Elara sat nearby, her fingers wrapped around a steaming cup of herbs, her mind replaying every impossible thing she'd seen. She'd washed the blood from his body, careful not to stare too long, though she caught herself doing it anyway. He didn't look like a monster. He looked human, strong, proud, even in weakness. The silence between them was thick, broken only when his eyes opened. Gold again, but softer in the light. "You stayed," he murmured, "after what you saw." Elara swallowed hard. "I don't leave wounded things behind." He gave a faint, bitter smile. "You might regret that." As the day warmed, Kale sat up slowly, pain etching lines across his face. Elara helped him drink water, her heart pounding as his hand brushed hers. "They called you Alpha King," she said finally. "Why would your own kind hunt you?" He stared into the fire, the flames reflecting in his golden eyes. "Because I trusted the wrong people," he said. "My beta, Roven, betrayed me. He wanted the throne. He attacked under the blood moon when I was bound by the oath of peace." His jaw tightened. "He thought killing me would free him to rule." Alara's stomach twisted. "So he tried to drown you?" Kale nodded, but the river failed him and found you instead. For a moment, neither spoke. Then softly, she asked, "What happens if they find you alive?" His gaze met hers. "They'll kill you first." Alara's hands trembled around her cup. "Why would they care about me?" Kale looked at her, long and searching. "Because no human should see what you've seen. Our kind lives in secret. The council would silence anyone who knows the truth." She shook her head, stepping back. "Then go. As soon as you can walk, leave." He tried to stand, but his wound reopened, dark blood seeping through the bandage. Elara rushed to his side, pressing a cloth against it. "Lie down. You're not dying here, no matter what kingdom you've lost." Kale caught her wrist. "You don't understand, Elara. Saving me binds you. My blood mixed with yours when you touched my wound." Her breath hitched. "What does that mean?" "It means," he whispered, "you're tied to the Alpha by blood oath. You're mine now." The room felt smaller suddenly, air thick with heat and confusion. Elara pulled away, shaking her head. "No, I didn't agree to anything." Kale winced, but didn't let her go far. "It's not a choice. It's an ancient law. Blood recognizes intent. You saved me with your will, and my life bound itself to yours." His voice dropped low, almost sorrowful. "If I die, you die." The words struck like thunder. Elara stared at him, horror dawning. "That's not possible." "It is. And that's why you have to stay hidden. As long as Roven believes I'm dead, you're safe." Alara's heart raced. "And if he finds out?" Tail's golden eyes darkened. "He'll finish what he started and destroy anyone who stands between us." Outside, the mist crept back through the trees, carrying with it the faint echo of a howl. Low, mournful, and distant. Kale's head lifted at the sound, instincts burning beneath his calm. They're searching. Closer every night. Elara stood by the window, watching the forest breathe. "Then we'll make sure they don't find you." He looked at her, surprised. "You'd risk that? You said our lives are tied." She answered steadily. "So we survive together." For the first time, Kale's expression softened, something like respect, or maybe awe. But as the firelight flickered across the cabin walls, neither saw the shadow moving beyond the trees, a tall figure with crimson eyes and a cruel smile. Roven had found the scent again, and this time he wasn't alone. Night cloaked the forest in silence, but Kale's ears caught every whisper. The crunch of leaves far away, the faint metallic tang of blood on the wind. "They're close," he murmured, rising from the bed despite his wound. Elara stepped toward him, clutching her lantern. "You can barely stand. she said, worry threading her voice. "If you go out there, they'll kill you." Kel's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "If I stay, they'll kill you too." The word sent a chill down her spine. She turned to the window. Beyond it, fog swallowed the world, hiding whatever waited. The air felt charged, alive. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, long and mournful. Kel's hands tightened at his sides. "That's Rovin's signal," he said. "The hunt has begun." They packed in silence. Bread, herbs, bandages, each movement hurried, intense. Elara reached for a cloak, but Kel caught her wrist. "You can't leave the cabin without this." He traced a strange symbol on her arm with his blood-stained finger, muttering words in a language she didn't know. The mark glowed briefly, golden and warm, before fading into her skin. She shivered. "What did you do?" "I cloaked your scent," he said, "so they won't sense you." His tone softened. "You shouldn't have to be part of this." She met his gaze. "Too late for that." Something flickered between them, something unspoken but real. For a heartbeat, the danger outside didn't matter. It was just him, her, and the faint pulse of shared fear that felt like fate's heartbeat. They slipped into the woods, moving through mist and moonlight. The forest was alive with danger, every rustle a warning. Elara tried to match Kel's silent steps, but twigs snapped under her boots. "Stay close," he whispered. She did. His senses guided them, his eyes scanning the shadows. Then, a hiss, a blur. An arrow sliced past Elara's face and struck the tree beside her. "Run!" Kel roared. She darted through the trees as figures emerged from the fog, men cloaked in black, armed with silver. Kel lunged forward, shifting mid-stride. Bones cracked, fur erupted, and the Alpha King rose in full form, towering, silver, furious. His snarl split the night as he tore through the attackers, each movement precise, brutal, protective. Elara stumbled, watching the impossible unfold, beauty and savagery bound into one. The forest became chaos, firelight, screams, and the thunder of paws on earth. Kel moved like lightning, claws flashing. But there were too many. Elara saw one archer take aim at his back. Without thinking, she grabbed a burning branch and swung hard, striking the man hard enough to knock him down. Pain flared through her shoulder as another shoved her aside. She hit the ground gasping. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Suddenly, Kel was there, his wolf form shielding her, his growl a promise of death. He struck the last attacker down and turned to her, chest heaving. His fur was matted with blood, eyes burning with wild light. Slowly, she reached out, her hand trembling as it met his muzzle. "It's over," she whispered. He leaned into her touch, but his body trembled. "No," he growled softly, voice barely human. "It's just beginning." Elara woke to the sound of wind howling through the cave's mouth. The fire had burned low, glowing embers painting the stone walls red. She blinked and froze. The forest outside was bathed in silver light, brighter than it should be. The moon hung enormous above the treetops, its glow pulsing like a heartbeat. In the silence, she heard whispers, not from outside, but inside her mind. "Elara." The voice was deep, raw, familiar. "Kale's." She turned. He slept a few feet away, his body shifting faintly, fur spreading and retreating across his skin. The air shimmered around him, bending like heat. She touched your chest. The same strange warmth coiled there, burning soft but steady. The bond was alive, whispering in her blood, and with every beat she felt more of him, his pain, his rage, his longing to protect her. At dawn, Kale stirred, his golden eyes flickering open. "You didn't sleep," he murmured. Elara shook her head. "I couldn't. Something's happening to me. She showed him the mark on her arm. It pulsed faintly, veins glowing beneath her skin like threads of moonlight. Kale sat up sharply, tension tightening his voice. The bond's awakening faster than I expected. What does it mean? She asked. He hesitated. It means the moon has accepted you. You're part of the pack now, part of me. The words hit her like thunder, half terrifying, half electric. No, she whispered. I'm human. Kale's eyes softened. You were, he said, but the moon never makes mistakes. A silence stretched between them, heavy with things neither dared to say. Then, somewhere outside, a single wolf's howl cut through the morning air, a warning. The hunters were still close. They broke camp by mid-morning, moving through the forest's misty heart. Elara carried a small satchel of herbs, her mind clouded with what Kale had said. Part of him. The words echoed inside her. Each time their shoulders brushed, her pulse jumped. Then Kale stopped suddenly, crouching low. Smoke, he whispered. Elara squinted ahead, thin gray trails curling above the trees. The hunters? She asked. He shook his head slowly. No, this is a signal. He closed his eyes, nostrils flaring. It's from the council. His voice hardened. They've declared me rogue. Any pack that shelters me will burn. Elara's stomach twisted. Then they'll come after anyone near you. Kale nodded grimly. They'll start with the villages. He looked at her, something fierce and desperate in his gaze. If they find out where you live, they'll slaughter everyone. As they walked, the light began to fade. Elara stumbled once, gripping a tree for balance. Kale, she gasped. Something's wrong. Her body trembled, heat rushing through her veins. The mark on her arm blazed gold, brighter and brighter, until she cried out. Kale caught her as she fell to her knees, his voice sharp with worry. Kale, look at me. Her eyes snapped open, and for a moment, they glowed amber. She saw flashes, wolves running under moonlight, Roven standing before a fire, his red eyes gleaming. He's coming, she whispered, voice distant, not her own. He knows. Kale's hands tightened around her shoulders. The bond's showing you what I can't see, he said, awe and fear tangled in his tone. You're connected to the alpha's sight. When her vision cleared, she looked at him, breathless. Then we have to move, now. That night, they reached the cliff above the valley. Elara's village faint below, smoke curling from the chimneys. She felt her heart twist. If they come here, she began, but Kale's voice stopped her. They will. His gaze lifted to the sky, where the moon hung pale and cold. But the moon never warns without reason. He turned to her, expression unreadable. Tomorrow night, under the blood moon, we find the shadow moon altar. There's a ritual that can break the oath before Roven uses it to destroy us both. Break the bond? She asked softly. He hesitated, eyes flicking to hers. Or seal it forever. The wind rose, carrying the sound of distant howls. Elara looked up at the glowing moon, feeling the mark on her arm burn like fire. And deep inside, a truth she couldn't deny. Her heart already belonged to the Alpha King. The morning broke cold and gray. Fog coiled low through the trees, wrapping the forest in ghostly silence. Elara followed Kale up the mountain path, her cloak damp with dew, her pulse heavy with dread. The mark on her arm pulsed faintly with each step, guiding her forward even when her legs trembled. Where are we going? She asked quietly. To the altar, Kale said without looking back. It's the only place the moon listens. His voice was steady, but his eyes scanned the forest like a hunter expecting ambush. Ravens followed them from branch to branch, their black wings slicing through the mist. The air smelled of moss, old stone, and magic. It's close, he murmured finally. I can feel her watching. Elara shivered. not from the cold, but from the weight of what was coming. By noon, the trees thinned, revealing a clearing carved into the mountain's heart. Stone pillars rose from the earth like broken teeth, engraved with runes that glowed faintly under the light. At the center stood an ancient altar, smooth, silver-veined rock surrounded by a circle of white lilies growing from bare stone. Elara stepped closer, awe softening her fear. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Kale's gaze lingered on the altar, not the flowers. "It's sacred. This is where every alpha swore their oath to the moon." He traced the carvings with his fingers, "and where the moon takes back what she's given." Elara felt the air hum, heavy with unseen power. The mark on her arm burned hot. "What do we do?" she asked. Kale looked at her, eyes full of something both fierce and gentle. "We ask her to decide our fate." Kale knelt before the altar, motioning for Elara to do the same. "Place your hand on the stone," he instructed. She obeyed, her palm meeting the cold surface. Instantly, warmth spread up her arm, like liquid light. Kale drew a dagger from his belt, its blade etched with moon symbols. "This blade carries the blood of every alpha before me," he said. "It will test the bond." He sliced his palm, crimson spilling over the stone. Then he took her hand gently. "You don't have to do this," he whispered. "You could still walk away." Elara met his gaze unflinching. "I already chose." Their hands pressed together as he made the cut. Their blood mingled, glowing gold where it touched the altar. The air trembled, then split open with a sound like thunder. The moon had answered. Light engulfed them, blinding and beautiful. Elara gasped as the world vanished, replaced by endless silver plains beneath a vast moon. A woman stood there, tall, radiant, eyes like starlight. "Goddess," Kale breathed, bowing his head. The moon spirit looked between them, her voice like wind over water. Two souls bound by chance, yet chosen by design. She stepped closer to Elara. "You, child of the river, pulled the alpha from death. But know this, love forged in blood to man's sacrifice." Elara's heart pounded. "What sacrifice?" The goddess turned to Kale. "You must choose, her life or your crown." The light dimmed. Elara reached for Kale, but the vision shattered into darkness, leaving her gasping on the cold stone. Kale was beside her, sweat beading his brow, jaw clenched. "She's testing us, and we've already begun to fail." The moon rose high before either spoke again. Kale sat by the altar, silent, lost in thought. Elara approached, wrapping her cloak around his shoulders. "You don't have to lose your crown," she said softly. "I'll leave. If that keeps you safe." He turned sharply, eyes burning. "Don't." The word was a growl, but his hand trembled as it brushed her cheek. "Every choice I made before you was out of duty. You were the first I made out of will." His thumb traced the blood mark on her arm. "If losing my crown means keeping you alive, then I'll burn the throne myself." The world seemed to hold still. Then he leaned forward, slowly, reverently, and kissed her. It wasn't wild, but desperate, aching, like a vow whispered to the night. Above them, the moon shone brighter, as if it approved. The morning after the ritual dawned with uneasy peace. The forest below the mountain was silent, as though holding its breath. Elara sat beside Kale near the dying fire, the memory of his kiss still pulsing through her veins like sunlight she couldn't escape. "Did we anger her?" she asked, voice quiet. Kale's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the fog rolled thick and dark. "The moon never gives answers freely," he said. "If there's a price, she'll name it soon." His tone was steady, but his hands trembled slightly as he wrapped his wound. Elara touched his shoulder. "Whatever happens, we face it together." He looked at her then, really looked, like she was the only thing tethering him to the earth. "That's what I fear most," he murmured, "because together we make the gods jealous." They started down the mountain by mid-morning, following the path that wound toward the valley. The air grew colder, the light dimmer. Kale stopped suddenly, his head snapping toward the tree line. "What is it?" Elara asked. His nostrils flared. "Smoke. Iron. Blood."
Before she could react, an arrow hissed through the air, grazing her arm. She cried out as Kale shoved her behind a rock. Figures emerged from the mist, 5 of them this time, cloaked in dark leather, blades gleaming silver. At their front stood a tall man with crimson eyes. His smile was sharp as glass. "You always did like hiding in the woods, brother." Kale's body stiffened. Roven. The word was a snarl. Elara's heart froze. The traitor stood before them at last, alive, cruel, and grinning like the devil. Kale stepped forward, half shifted, the air around him crackling with fury. "You broke the oath," he growled. Roven laughed, drawing a blade forged from moonstone. "You broke it first, by falling for a human." His gaze slid to Elara, hungry and hateful. "Tell me, Alpha, does she know what you truly are? What happens to your kind when love weakens the crown?" Kale lunged before he finished, claws meeting steel with a shower of sparks. The sound was thunder in the still forest. Elara ducked behind the stone, heart racing. Every strike between them felt like the earth itself would split. Then, Roven fainted, faster than she thought possible, and drove the blade deep into Kale's side. "No!" she screamed, rushing forward. The blood bond ignited, white-hot pain tore through her chest, mirroring his wound. They fell together, bound by agony. The ground trembled, the sky darkened, the moon appeared above them, faint, though it was still day. Roven froze, eyes wide as light spilled from Kale's wound, not red, but silver. The moon goddess's voice thundered through the clearing, unseen but undeniable. He was warned. Love is the greatest crown and the deepest wound. The light flared, throwing Roven backward. Elara crawled toward Kale, her hands slick with blood and tears. "Stay with me," she begged. His eyes flickered open, dimming. "The bond, it's too strong. You'll die if I do." She shook her head violently. "Then live for both of us." She pressed her hand to his chest, the mark in her arm blazing gold. The light surged, then everything went still. When the light faded, Kale's wound was gone. But Elara lay motionless beside him. Her lips were pale, her skin cold. "Elara," he whispered, shaking her gently. "Please." Her eyes didn't open. Desperation twisted his face as he lifted her in his arms. "You gave me life, so I'll give you mine if I must." The bond between them glowed once more, bright enough to rival the moon. He pressed his forehead to hers, and something in the world shifted. The wind died, the forest bowed. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly gold. "Kale," she breathed. Relief washed through him like rain after fire. "I'm here." She smiled weakly. "Then the goddess didn't take you." He held her close. "No," he whispered. "She took something far worse. My right to the throne."
The forest never slept that night. Rain lashed through the branches, turning soil into blood-dark mud. Cal carried Elara in his arms, his steps uneven, every breath a knife in his ribs. The goddess's words still echoed in his mind. Love is the greatest crown and the deepest wound. He had lost his throne, his pack, his right to lead. All that remained was the fragile heartbeat against his chest. "Stay awake," he whispered to her. Though she drifted in and out, eyes clouded. They reached an abandoned hunter's cabin by dawn, its door barely clinging to its hinges. Inside, he laid her on a fur blanket and collapsed beside her. The rain eased, but the silence that followed felt heavier than any storm. The Alpha King had fallen, not by war, but by love. When Elara awoke, daylight slanted through the cracks in the roof. Her vision blurred, but she saw Cal crouched near the fire, staring into the flames like they held his past. "You should rest," he said quietly, without looking up. She tried to sit, but pain flared in her chest, where the bond mark pulsed faintly. "What happened?" she whispered.
Cal's jaw clenched. You saved me, but at a cost. He turned to her then, eyes full of something she couldn't name. Guilt, awe, fear. The bond healed my wound and transferred my power into you. I'm no longer Alpha. She stared, unable to speak. That's not possible. He nodded slowly. It is. The throne rejects me now. The wolves will sense it soon. Elara's heart twisted. Then we'll run. His voice hardened. There's nowhere left to run, Elara. They'll come for the one who carries the Alpha's heart. You. The fire crackled softly between them. Cal leaned forward, his hand brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. You don't understand what you've done. By saving me, you've bound yourself to my fate. Every hunter, every pack, every rival Alpha will hunt you now. She met his gaze, unflinching. Then let them come. I didn't pull you from that river to watch you die. Her voice trembled, but held steel. Cal's jaw lifted. You're braver than any wolf I've ever known. Elara reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being afraid. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, like the sound of destiny moving closer. They didn't hear the horses until it was too late. A horn echoed through the valley, a sound Cal knew too well. They found us, he said, eyes darkening. He pushed Elara toward the trapdoor beneath the bed. Hide. Don't argue. She clutched his arm. Cal! He silenced her with a look, fierce and final. You carry my power now. If they take you, everything ends. Reluctantly, she climbed into the narrow space as Cal closed it above her. The door burst open moments later. 6 wolves in human form stormed in, led by a woman with silver hair and a scar across her jaw. Cal, she said coldly, our fallen king. He didn't move. Sarah, still loyal to Roven, I see. Her lip curled. He sits on your throne now. His eyes burned. Then he can die on it too. The cabin erupted in violence. Claws met steel. Teeth met flesh. Cal fought like a storm unchained, but his strength faltered. His alpha power no longer answered his call. Sarah's blade slashed across his chest, driving him to his knees. You should have stayed dead, she hissed. The pack deserves a king, not a lovesick ghost. Her blade rose for the killing blow when the trapdoor burst open. Elara emerged, eyes blazing gold, the mark on her arm glowing like wildfire. Get away from him, she shouted. Power exploded from her body, throwing Sarah and her warriors back through the cabin walls. The world went white. When the light faded, Cal stared at her in stunned silence. The wolves lay unconscious in the mud outside. Elara stood shaking, terrified of her own strength. Cal, she whispered. What did I just do? His answer came hoarse, reverent. You took the crown. The rain had stopped, but the air trembled. Elara stood in the clearing, the wreckage of the cabins smoking around her. Her hands glowed faintly, veins threaded with silver light that pulsed to the rhythm of the forest. The wolves she'd thrown lay scattered and silent, the earth itself seeming to bow beneath her feet. Cale rose slowly, one hand pressed to his bleeding chest, the other reaching toward her. Elara, what did you do? She shook her head, tears streaking her dirt-stained face. I didn't mean to. The glow dimmed, leaving her trembling, human again. But something had changed. The forest watched her now. She could feel its heartbeat, its whisper. You didn't take my power, Cale said softly. You became it. The words hung between them, impossible yet undeniable. Elara looked down at her shaking hands. Then what am I now? Cale's gaze darkened. The queen the moon never intended. By nightfall, word had spread through the valley. The Alpha King lives, but the crown burns with a human heart. Across the mountains, packs stirred restlessly. In the ruins of the cabin, Kale and Elara built a fire, trying to plan their next move. "They'll come for me," she said. "For both of us," Kale corrected. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed the war inside him. "The bond ties our fates together. Your power will draw every wolf, every hunter, every curse." Elara stared into the fire. "Then we face them." He almost smiled. "You speak like a queen already." The wind howled through the trees, carrying a distant growl. "They're closer than we thought," he murmured. He rose and handed her his dagger. "If I fall, you run." She gripped it tight. "And if I don't?" He met her gaze. "Then I'll finally have something worth dying for." Hours later, the woods erupted with howls. Shadows moved between the trees, dozens of them. Kale's muscles tensed as he shifted halfway, fur streaked with silver. "Stay behind me," he ordered. But before the pack could strike, a figure stepped into the moonlight. Sira, bleeding but alive, dragging herself forward. "Kale!" she rasped. "He's coming!" Kale's eyes narrowed. "Roven?" She nodded weakly. "He knows. He's bringing the council. He plans to bind her power to his blood." Elara froze. "What does that mean?" Sira looked at her with pity. "He'll drain the bond. You'll die, and he'll rule forever." Kale's growl shook the air. "Then he'll have to walk through hell to reach her." Sira lowered her gaze. "You don't understand. He's already here." A cold voice cut through the night. "No need for hell, brother," Roven said, stepping from the shadows, eyes burning red. "I brought it with me." The moonlight turned blood red as the brothers faced each other. Kale lunged first, fury in every motion, but Roven caught his strike with inhuman speed, twisting him to the ground. Still fighting for love? How noble, how weak. Alara's power surged again, golden light bursting from her mark. Roven turned toward her, amused. "Ah, the little savior. Let's see if you can save yourself." He raised his hand, and shadows snaked from his fingers, wrapping around her throat. Kale roared, breaking free, but too late. The darkness dragged her to her knees. Her lungs burning, Kale's claws tore through the mist, reaching for her. "Elara!" he shouted. Through the haze, she saw his eyes, wild, desperate, full of love, and something inside her broke open. The power rushed back, stronger than before, shattering Roven's grip. The blast threw him backward into the trees. The forest fell silent again, but it wasn't over. Kale stumbled toward her, blood soaking his side, but smiling despite it. "You did it," he whispered. "You drove him off." Elara collapsed into his arms, shaking. "I can't control it," she said, voice cracking. "It's like the moon's inside me." He held her tighter. "Then we'll learn. Together." She looked up at him, fear and longing tangled in her eyes. "Kale, what if this power destroys us?" He brushed his thumb across her cheek. "Then we let it destroy everything but love." For a moment, the world stood still. The fire crackled, the wind sighed, and the moon glowed white again. But far away, beneath the roots of the mountains, Roven opened his eyes in the darkness, his lips curling into a cruel smile. "Let her wear the crown. Every queen falls, eventually." Morning came too quiet. The forest that had once sung with wolves was now a graveyard of whispers. Kale sat by the ashes of their campfire, blood dried on his hands, his eyes hollow but alive. Elara stood by the riverbank, staring at her reflection. The mark on her arm glowed faintly, an unbroken circle of gold, pulsing like a second heartbeat. Every time it throbbed, she heard a voice that wasn't hers. "The crown demands balance, a life for a life." She pressed her hand against it, shivering. Kale's voice broke the silence. "It's calling to you. isn't it?" She turned, startled. "You hear it too?" He nodded, eyes dark. "I used to, when I was alpha." His gaze fell to the river. "The bond's rewriting you, Elara. The moon doesn't bless without taking something back." Her breath hitched. Then what does she want? Kale looked at her, sorrow heavy in his tone. Blood. Always blood. Clouds gathered as the first drops began to fall. They took shelter beneath an old pine, the sound of rain muffling the world around them. "There's something I never told you," Kale said, his voice low. "When I became Alpha, the goddess offered me a vision, a throne made of fire and bone. She said every crown carries a curse, and every king must spill the blood of his heart." Elara frowned. "The blood of his heart?" He nodded. "It means the one he loves most." Her stomach turned cold. "So when I healed you, you took my curse." He finished softly. "And now, the bond's demanding its due." She shook her head violently. "No, I won't accept that. We'll find another way." Kale reached for her hand. "I thought that too. But you can't bargain with the moon, Elara. You can only survive her." His voice broke. "And I'd rather die than let her take you." That night, Elara woke to light flooding the cabin. The mark on her arm burned white hot. She stumbled outside into the clearing, the moon full and cruel above. "Why me?" she cried. "Why him?" The wind answered with a whisper. "Because you chose love over power, and that cannot stand." The light flared, and a figure stepped from the shadows, a woman in silver robes, eyes like frozen stars. "You are the first mortal to bear the Alpha's heart, but balance must be restored." Elara fell to her knees. "Take me, not him." The goddess tilted her head. "Your life is already bound to his. His death is your freedom." Elara's heart broke. "No." The goddess reached out a hand, brushing her cheek like a mother might a child's. "When the blood moon rises, one of you will die. Choose wisely." And with that, she vanished into mist. Elara stumbled back inside, shaking. Tail was awake, his eyes sharp despite his exhaustion. "She came to you, didn't she?" Elara nodded. "She gave me a choice." His jaw tightened. "There's no choice. If one must die, it'll be me." She stepped forward, furious. "You think I'd let you?" He met her fire with his own. "You think I'd let you?" Silence hung heavy between them. Then Kale drew his dagger, sliced his palm, and pressed it to hers. Their blood mixed, glowing gold where it touched. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Making a vow," he said. "If one of us dies, the other follows. No goddess decides our fate." The bond pulsed violently, sealing the oath. Elara gasped as the world around them trembled. "Kale, what have you done?" He smiled sadly. "Made us immortal. Or doomed us both. I'm not sure which is which yet." Far beyond the forest, under the blood-red moon, Rovan knelt before a black stone altar. Shadows coiled around him like snakes. "You failed to kill them," hissed a voice from the darkness. "No," Rovan said, smirking. "I learned something far better." His hand hovered over the fire, conjuring an image of Elara and Kale bound by light. She carries the heart now, and soon she'll carry the curse that breaks her. The darkness pulsed approvingly. Then let it be done. As the moon's reflection bled across the altar, Rovin's eyes glowed brighter, his smile crueler. Let them run. Let them believe love can save them. When the blood moon rises, I'll take both their hearts, and their power will be mine. The shadows laughed softly, and the sound traveled through the night, reaching even the forest where Elara dreamed of a crown dripping in blood.
The dawn came red as spilled wine. Clouds burned along the horizon, and the air felt too still, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Kale and Elara stood at the edge of a ridge, staring at the sun that looked too much like a bleeding moon. "It's early," Kale muttered. "The blood moon shouldn't rise for another week." Alara's heart sank. The goddess is forcing time. He nodded grimly. She wants her balance now. The mark on Elara's arm had darkened overnight, the gold fading to crimson. Every pulse felt like a drumbeat in her bones. "I can feel her watching," she whispered. "Every time I blink." Kale stepped closer, brushing her hair back. "Then don't blink," he said softly. His touch steadied her for a heartbeat, but only that. Somewhere far below, a howl echoed through the valley. Not wild, not free. Controlled. Ordered. "Rovin!" Kale growled. "He's marching his army." By noon, smoke curled over the tree line. Shadows moved like tides, an army of wolves, 100 strong, led by Rovin on horseback. His armor gleamed black, forged from moonstone and spite. Behind him rode the loyalists, wolves bound to the old bloodline. Kale and Elara watched from above, hidden by fog. "He's not just after you," Kale said. "He's after the bond." Alara's hand trembled. "If he takes it, he becomes a god," Kale finished. He turned to her, eyes fierce. "We can't run anymore." She met his gaze, the wind whipping through her hair. "Then we make our stand here." The words left her lips before she could stop them, but they felt right. Kale nodded slowly. "Then let's make it count." He began drawing runes in the dirt, ancient symbols of protection, each glowing faintly under his fingers. "What are those?" she asked. "Old magic," he said, "from when wolves still feared the stars." As night fell, the forest came alive with uneasy silence. Kale sat sharpening his blade, his movements calm but eyes haunted. Elara sat beside him, wrapping her arm where the mark still burned. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly. He looked up. "What?" "The river, that night, letting me save you." His expression softened, something fragile passing through it. He said, "Every day." Her heart sank until he added, "Because it means you suffered for it, but I'd still choose it again." She smiled faintly. "The night saved you too." He set the blade down, reaching for her hand. The silence between them grew warm, thick with everything they hadn't said. He leaned closer, his breath brushing her cheek. "If we don't survive tomorrow, I need you to know." She cut him off with a kiss, desperate and trembling. When they pulled apart, tears glimmered in her eyes. "Then we survive." Midnight came. The world turned red. The moon climbed high, dripping color across the trees until even the shadows bled. Alara's mark flared, burning through her skin. She gasped, clutching her arm. "Kale, it's happening!" He turned toward her, his own chest glowing faintly where their bond linked. The ground trembled. A howl rose from below, the signal. The army moved. "Stay behind me," Kale ordered, shifting fully now, his fur streaked silver under the red light. Elara raised her hands and the air rippled around her like heat over sand. Power surged through her veins, wild, uncontrollable, alive. "They're coming!" she shouted. Kale bared his teeth, "Then let them come." The first wave of wolves broke through the tree line, eyes burning red. Elara thrust her hands forward and light exploded from her palms,
tearing through the front lines like a storm. But for every wolf that fell, 3 more came. The battle raged through the night. Fire lit the forest. Kale fought like a creature reborn, claws and teeth flashing silver. Elara stood at his side, unleashing the full fury of the alpha bond, her screams shaking the heavens. But it wasn't enough. For every blow they struck, the curse struck back. Her power drained faster with each wave, the light in her hands flickering. Kale, I can't hold it. He turned just in time to see Rovan stepping through the fire, unscathed, a cruel smile cutting his face. You can't fight destiny, brother, he said. The moon already chose her grave. Kale roared and charged, claws gleaming, but Rovan met him mid-leap with the blade of pure moonlight. It sank deep into Kale's side. Elara screamed. As their bond tore open, she felt it as if her own heart had been pierced. The red moon pulsed once, twice, then the world went silent.
The forest burned in shades of red and gold, its cries swallowed by smoke. Elara crawls across the scorched ground, lungs tearing with every breath. Around her, the battlefield was still, bodies motionless, the scent of ash and iron thick in the air. Kale, she whispered. No answer. Her hands trembled as she pushed aside broken branches and blood-soaked leaves. Then she saw him. He lay at the base of a fallen tree, his chest rising shallowly, the moonlight silvering his fur. The blade still glowed faintly, buried deep in his side. No, she gasped, stumbling toward him. She dropped to her knees, pressing her hands over the wound. You can't leave me. His golden eyes flickered open, weak but focused on her. You're alive, he rasped. Good. A tear slipped down her cheek. Not without you, I'm not. He smiled faintly. You always were stubborn. The mark on Elara's arm pulsed violently now, matching the slowing rhythm of his heart. The bond's breaking, Kale whispered. It's fighting to keep us both alive, but the moon won't allow it. She shook her head frantically. Then I'll fight her. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a broken breath. You can't fight the divine. She leaned close, her tears falling onto his fur. Watch me. Her hands glowed gold as she pressed harder, channeling every bit of her power into him. Pain seared through her own body. She could feel his wound bleeding inside her. Stop, he gasped. You'll kill yourself. Then I die with you, she cried. The forest stirred, the wind rising, leaves spinning around them in a spiral of light and shadow. The moon's voice whispered through the chaos. Every queen must choose, save the crown or save her heart. Elara screamed into the storm. I choose him. Time stopped. The world dimmed to silver and black. The moon goddess appeared again, her robes flowing like mist, eyes filled with cold mercy. You would defy me still? She asked. Elara rose to her feet, trembling but unyielding. Take my power. Take the crown, but let him live. The goddess tilted her head. And what would you be without it? Just human, Elara said. Just someone who loved him. For the first time, the goddess smiled, a sad, almost tender smile. You remind me of myself. She reached out, touching Elara's chest. The light inside her flared, then began to fade. The bond will remain, the goddess said, but its power will not. He will live, but your heart will no longer belong to this world. Elara frowned, confusion piercing her grief. What do you mean? You will die, the goddess whispered, but in your death he will rise again. Elara turned back to Kale, the glow in her body dimming with every heartbeat. No, she said softly, not like this. He struggled to rise, his strength returning as even hers waned. Elara, what's happening? She knelt beside him, cupping his face. I traded everything, she said, for you. His eyes widened. No, you can't.
She pressed her lips to his, silencing the protest. The kiss was soft, infinite, full of every word they never had time to say. Her light poured into him, wrapping around his wounds until they vanished completely. When she pulled back, her body was already turning to silver dust. "Don't you dare follow me," she whispered. Kale caught her hand, his tears falling onto her fading skin. "I'll find you," he swore, "in this life or the next." She smiled through the glow. "Then I'll wait by the river." As the last of her light vanished, Kale's body convulsed. The power she'd given him surged through his veins like lightning. His roar tore through the burning forest, shaking the earth. The clouds split, the blood moon shattering into fragments of light. When the dust settled, he stood alone, stronger but hollow. The mark that had bound them now glowed faintly over his heart. He looked at his reflection in the river, seeing her face in every ripple. "She saved me twice," he whispered. "Once from death, once from myself." Behind him, the surviving wolves began to emerge, kneeling one by one. "Alpha," one murmured. Kale turned slowly, his golden eyes burning, not with pride, but with pain. "No," he said, "there is no Alpha without her." I gazed up at the fading moon. "But there will be peace." And somewhere in the silver mist above, a voice whispered, "You kept your oath." Weeks passed, but the castle remained silent. The once golden halls of Valhalla were draped in mourning black, their torches burning low. Kael sat alone on the throne, though it no longer felt like his. The crown weighed heavier than any wound he'd ever carried. At night, he still reached for her in his dreams, only to wake to an empty bed, and the faint scent of her still clinging to the sheets. The council begged him to move forward, to take a Louna and rebuild, but he refused. "A king without love," he said quietly, "is just a wolf pretending to be human." Outside, the land healed under his rule, rivers clearing, forests regrowing, but his heart stayed frozen. Every night he would walk to the riverbank, the same one where it all began, and listen to the wind whisper her name, Elara. That night, the moon shone brighter than it had in months, silver and full, painting the river in liquid light. Kael stood barefoot at the edge, his reflection rippling beneath the current. Then he heard it, soft, melodic, and heartbreakingly familiar. A voice. "Kael." He froze. "Elara?" he whispered into the night. The wind stirred, carrying her laughter, light and haunting. He stepped forward, the cold water biting at his ankles. "If this is a dream, don't let me wake." The current swirled faster, and from the mist a faint figure began to form. She looked just as she had that night, barefoot, hair like river silk, eyes glowing faintly. "You kept your promise," she said, her voice trembling like wind through glass. Kael's knees gave way. "You're real." She shook her head gently. "Not anymore, but I couldn't leave, not until you forgave yourself." Kael's voice cracked. "Forgive myself. I was supposed to protect you." Elara knelt before him, her ghostly hand hovering just above his cheek. "You did. You saved me from the curse." "By losing you," he said bitterly. "You think that's mercy?" Her gaze softened. "Kael, I chose it. You didn't take my life. I gave it. You've carried that guilt too long." His jaw clenched. "How can I forgive myself when every part of me still belongs to you?" Elara smiled sadly. "Then don't forget me. Just live for me." He looked up at her, his eyes wild with longing. "Stay, please." She hesitated, her form flickering like a dying flame. "I can't. The moon's pulling me back." The wind grew colder. "But know this," she said softly. "The bond never died. It sleeps inside your blood."
The river began to glow, swirling in patterns that mirrored the ancient mark on his chest. He felt it, a faint heartbeat inside him, not his own. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. Elara nodded. "That's me. Every time the moon rises, you'll feel me near." He reached toward her, but his hand passed through her chest like mist. "No," he roared. "Don't go." Her figure shimmered brighter, the edges dissolving into light. "When the next blood moon rises, follow the river. It will lead you to me." "Elara," he began, but her form exploded into silver dust scattering over the water. The ripples spread outward, glowing with faint traces of gold. He fell to his knees, clutching the river water in his hands, as if he could hold her there. But only her voice remained, echoing faintly. "Love isn't gone, just waiting." As the last whisper faded, Kael stood trembling, drenched in moonlight. Something inside him had changed. The emptiness that had consumed him for weeks now burned with a fragile, dangerous hope. He looked up at the moon, tears glinting in his golden eyes. "The next blood moon," he said quietly. "I'll find you." Behind him, the forest stirred again, wolves emerging from the shadows, sensing the shift in their alpha spirit. He turned toward them, taller now, stronger, a glint of purpose back in his gaze. "Prepare the packs," he commanded. "We follow the river when the moon turns red." The wolves bowed in unison. As he walked back toward the castle, the wind carried her name again. But this time, it didn't hurt. It promised. And for the first time since her death, the Alpha King smiled. The night the blood moon rose again, the skies burned crimson. The kingdom gathered at the river's edge, watching in fearful silence as the current turned the color of molten silver. Kael stood at the front, cloak billowing behind him, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The prophecy had spoken true. The moon bled only once for every king destined to change the fate of wolves forever. "Are you certain about this, my lord?" asked General Theron, his voice rough with concern. Kael didn't look away. "She's waiting." Around them, the pack shifted uneasily, sensing magic thickening the air. The water hummed with ancient power, pulsing like a living thing. Kael took a step forward, the mark on his chest burning brighter than ever. "If love could bring me back from death," he murmured, "then maybe it can bring her too." With that, he stepped into the river. The river swallowed him whole, cold, sharp, and endless. The deeper he sank, the brighter it became, light curling through the darkness like threads of gold. Whispers surrounded him, voices from another realm. He seeks her. He dares the boundary. Kael swam harder, lungs burning until his feet touched the riverbed. There, a date of shimmering crystal waited, half submerged, carved with the runes of the moon goddess herself. "Only one who bleeds for love may pass," the whispers warned. Without hesitation, Kael drew a blade across his palm, letting blood flow freely. The gate trembled, glowing fiercely before splitting open. He stepped through, and the world shifted. The river became a bridge of light, stretching across the sky. Stars shimmered beneath his feet. Ahead, in the distance, stood a figure cloaked in silver mist. He knew that silhouette by heart. "Elara," he breathed. The air was silent, weightless. The moon hung closer here, so large it filled the heavens. Elara turned, her form more solid now, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Kael?" Her voice broke. He ran to her, catching her in his arms, feeling warmth where there should have been none. "You came back," she whispered. I told you I would, he said, brushing her hair from her face. She laughed through tears. You shouldn't be here. This place isn't for the living. Then I'll stay until it kills me, he said softly. The moonlight around them began to flicker, the bridge trembling under their feet. The goddess won't allow it, she warned. He looked into her eyes. Let her try. But above them, thunder rolled, ancient and angry. A voice echoed through the realm. You defy the order of life and death. Elara turned pale. Kael, she's coming. The moon goddess descended in a blinding halo, her gaze both sorrowful and furious. Foolish king, you were given a second chance, yet you seek to undo it. Kael stood tall, though his heart pounded like a drum. I didn't ask for a throne. I only ever wanted her. The goddess's eyes softened, but her tone remained sharp. And if I return her, what then? You'll defy death for love, and the world will crumble under the weight of what you've taken. Kael stepped forward. Then take my life in exchange. Let her live in the world she saved. Elara grabbed his hand. No, she cried. Don't! The goddess raised her hand, light building in her palm. There can only be one life between you. The wind howled, light exploded, and the bridge beneath them shattered. They fell together, tumbling through stars, through memories, through everything they'd ever been. Elara clung to him, her voice a whisper against the roar. You promised you wouldn't follow me. He smiled through the chaos. And you promised to wait by the river. Their bodies hit the water with a surge of silver light. For a moment there was silence. No movement, no breath. Then Kael gasped, eyes opening to the night sky above. He was lying on the riverbank, soaked and shaking. Beside him, Elara stirred, her hand reaching weakly for his. Flesh. Warm, alive. He caught her hand, laughter and tears colliding in his chest. You're here, he breathed. She looked around, confusion and wonder in her eyes. Did we make it? He nodded. Together. Above them, the blood moon faded back to white, and for the first time, dawn broke over Vera Hollow. Morning light spilled across the river, gentle and golden. The war-torn forest stood still, as though holding its breath. Birds began to sing again, cautious but hopeful. Kael sat at the edge of the bank, cradling Elara in his arms. She was pale but breathing, her chest rising slowly beneath his cloak. Every few seconds, she blinked up at him, as if not yet believing the world was real. We came back, she whispered. He nodded, tears slipping silently down his face. The moon gave us another chance. No, Elara corrected softly. You earned it. Around them the river shimmered faintly, no longer red but clear as glass, its curse finally broken. Wolves from every pack appeared at the tree line, watching in awe. Some whispered that the goddess had blessed them. Others fell to their knees. But Kael only saw her, the woman who had defied the heavens for love. When they reached the castle gates, the guards froze. No one spoke as Kael helped Elara from her horse. Her bare feet touched the stone courtyard, and immediately flowers began to bloom where she stepped, delicate white blossoms breaking through cracks. The magic she'd carried was changed now, softer, purer, stripped of divine weight. The council rushed forward, bowing low. Alpha, Theron said breathlessly, eyes flicking between them. We thought you were lost. Kael smiled faintly. I was.
but she found me again." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as Elara's gaze swept the broken banners, the wounded hearts. "We rebuild," she said simply, "not as wolves and humans. As one." Kale looked at her with something deeper than pride, something eternal. "Your Louna has spoken," he said. And with that the pack howled, not in mourning this time, but in promise. The sound carried through the mountains, announcing a new era's dawn. Weeks passed and Werehalo flourished. The rivers ran pure again, the fields grew green, and no wolf starved or hid in fear. But peace came with silence, and in that silence Kale sometimes woke in the night, half expecting her to vanish like mist. "You're thinking again," Elara would tease, tracing his jaw with her finger. "Old habit," he'd reply. "I keep waiting to pay the price for having you back." She smiled softly. "Maybe this is the price, learning to live, not just fight." He kissed her palm. "You make it sound easy. It never is, but it's ours." Together they walked the castle walls, watching the moonlight ripple over the rooftops. "Do you ever hear her?" he asked suddenly. Elara nodded toward the sky. "The goddess? Sometimes. She doesn't sound angry anymore. Maybe she's resting too." Kale smiled faintly. "Then we'll let her rest." On the eve of the next moon, the kingdom gathered for a ceremony unlike any before. There were no jeweled crowns, no ancient chants, just 2 rings forged from river stone and silver, worn by a man and woman who had defied gods to be together. As Kale slipped the band onto Elara's finger, he whispered, "No vows can bind us tighter than the river already has." She smiled, her voice trembling. "Then let this ring be a reminder, not of what we lost, but what we found." The crowd erupted into howls and cheers, echoing through the mountains. Fireflies filled the air, swirling like stars reborn. For the first time in centuries, wolves and humans danced together in the courtyard, unafraid, united. As the music rose, Kale pulled her close. "We began in the river," he said softly, "and now we flow together." She pressed her head against his chest. "Always." Later that night, long after the music faded, Kale and Elara returned to the river. The water glowed faintly, as if remembering them. They stood hand in hand, watching the reflection of the moon ripple across its surface. "It's quieter now," she said. "Peaceful." Kale nodded. "She's watching over us." He knelt, dipped his hand into the current, and smiled as the water shimmered around his fingers. "This river once took everything from me. Now, it gives everything back." Elara leaned into him. "Maybe that's what love does. It breaks us to rebuild us stronger." He turned to her, eyes full of warmth and awe. "Then let the world break again, if it means finding you." She laughed softly, and together they stepped into the shallow water, letting it swirl around their feet. Above them, the moon burned white, whole again. And for the first time, so were they. Thank you for staying till the end. Please do well to like and subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comment. It means a lot to me.